for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
Back on this rap-ish, I ain't even broke a sweat, homie, this practice. Pondering my next move, staring at my track list, hope I ain't missing my window. Praying like a Baptist, Seattle's own, tired of this Game of Thrones. They made a list of the best rappers and guess who wasn't on? While the disrespect continues, I'm steady packing these venues. Guess if you ain't at the table, you on the menu, and I'm that spitter, baby. They don't want you to see, but everybody's south of Capitol Hill's rocking with me. Boys smoke the trays and plan to getting their life together. I'm comfortable with my role, so I'm like, whatever. Me? I ain't got a job, but I work hard. And you don't work hard, but you got a job. The irony is I'm judged while you feel the applause. I'm slept on, that's why I had to set this alarm. My dudes is armed, I'm armed with this arm charm. Body banging like she got that cream from Barry Bonds. Yeah.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
That Dre season is here, a real hitter with a mic, I'm everything that they fear. With that hood ain't the same, I was all on their ass, I'm level-headed. So yo, my dudes love when I spaz, and I'm so over Seattle's passive-aggressive attitude. They don't call you back, what they really saying is F you. While I'm from the same place, I move at a different pace. I prefer if you just said it to my face, damn, I did it.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it
I hate
for
these
us.
average dudes with they average spit, writing average rhymes, knocking average chicks. The closer I get, I can feel the people starting to shift. I'm loyal to a fault, and everybody can't come with. Rap's a rich man's game, I'm only playing with change. They bang models and singers, I'm knocking my own flame, I'm different. The crowd, I move with the chosen few. Black thoughts, I could be the front man for the roots. No diamonds and gold, I'm on my sticks and stones. If we can see your panty line, you should have on a thong. My team is strong, through this fire we forged a bond. And they already know what it is when I get on. To the hearse, party like it's December 31st. When I'm on my deathbed, I probably cracking my nurse. You ain't got the bars to compete, I'm a verbal athlete. Deflating these boys so they say that I cheat. Damn, I did it.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
Yeah. I should probably start by apologizing for the long wait, man. You know, I know I be tripping. But I'm not just a rapper, I'm an artist. And, you know, my creative process is a little bit different than most. Nonetheless, I want to welcome everybody out to the Dre's Experience. I got TCF in the building. My whole camp's here with me. I got the band in here laying this cool-ass vibe. And I'm Seattle's own. Let's get into it.
I say to you, community, let's take up space. We weren't supposed to make it through the vast Atlantic or back to the door of no return. So shine like the gold in our skin and the first porch light ever lit. 'Cause we lit and we stay lit. It is with love that everything we touch is ablaze with brilliance. We made jazz and had the blues so hard we're still nodding our heads, but this time we sampled What a Wonderful World. What a way to escape the pain and revel in joy. To the Marsha P. Johnsons who woke up our pride. To the Jimi Hendrix who burned his guitar. For the tennis playing sisters, for those who didn't make it. And I promise not to fake it. We still want our 40 acres, a mule, and reparations. To the barbers and stylists who still carry on tradition. For the laughter through the tough times, the dead and the living that we hold sacred. To be a people who built empires out of sticks and stones and turned the names they called us into songs. We are still here.
Hi, everybody. Grand Rising and good morning to all of you. Welcome to the Morning Update Show. I am your co-host, Trey Holiday, and we've got a great show for you guys on this amazing Friday Eve. As always, got to throw it over here and introduce my co-host with the most, Big O. What's up, Big O?
Good morning.
Yeah, almost there. Good morning. Good morning.
Almost there. We say Friday Eve, huh?
Yeah, Friday Eve, man.
Yeah, well, this is my Friday. Tomorrow it's Feel Good Friday with you.
Right. That's right. Absolutely.
My last day of the weekend. Thank God it's Thursday. Good show lined up today. Lots of video. After the morning update show yesterday, Seattle Mayor Jenny Durkan came over here to the Black Media Matters studios and asked her a few questions. So we're gonna go over some of her responses there. Talk to her about gun violence. Talk to her about, man, what did you accomplish for the Black community? What work is there now for Mayor-elect Harrell to do? And then also talk to her about my feelings around the protests. So we got that coming up. And then we pulled out a few clips from Terrain for Ginger Ewing over there at Spokane. Actually, you got a cameo in that video.
Yeah, right on.
So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. Want to hop right into it. Good morning. Welcome to the Morning Update Show. Want to remind you that right now is the perfect time for you to tag and share the stream. Go ahead and tag and share the stream with people who you feel would appreciate culturally relevant news and information emanating from right here in the Emerald City. Want to give a big shout out to our partners over at the South Seattle Emerald and also KBCS 91.3 over at Bellevue College. Also want to remind everybody that you can listen to the Morning Update Show anywhere that you listen to your favorite podcast. They got SoundCloud going up over there, but how come I'm small? Why can't I can't be big over there, Mr. Director? Huh? SoundCloud, Spotify, Google. Man, you just threw me off over there. You have me all tiny. Anywhere that you listen to your favorite podcast, just search Converge Media Network. Also, a reminder that the COVID-19 vaccine is readily available right here in Martin Luther King County. If you want to get vaccinated or need a booster shot or you need a test, or if you got questions, if you're hesitant, I'm actually going to talk about that. You can click that link right there in the comments and go and manage that. And man, there's so much with the Omicron now. There's just so much about the COVID-19 vaccine. And it's interesting. I'm going to play a clip here in a second. The Factors were here last night. Ronald and Ronell Moore, they were here, and they filmed episode number 2 of the Factors TV. And one of the things that came up was the COVID-19 vaccine and hesitation in our community. And one of the things they brought up was the empathy gap that Black women have continuously encountered in the medical profession as another one of the reasons maybe why people don't trust the vaccine.
So I tell people all the time that like between like what cops are to Black men in America, doctors are to Black women.
Yeah, Black women. Yeah.
Like, you know how many Black women die in birth, you know, in like during birth and giving birth,
or have issues and doctors turn them away.
Black women haven't tried to address issues to the doctor, and the doctor doesn't hear them out. Then something happens. So, you know, that's, man, like I want to.
There's a lot to think about.
Yeah, a lot to think about. And this is important. These discussions are important to have when addressing vaccine hesitancy in our community and why people have hesitancy around the vaccine. You know, we won't ever move forward if we don't have these discussions. But yeah, I mean, they brought up that empathy gap that we've been talking about way back when with Dr. Mook.
Yeah, we've been talking about this for a while. We actually had a midwife on too early on in the Morning Update Show who really dove into this issue. But you're right. I mean, there's a number of historical factors, and I love that it's called Factors TV, because there's a number of historical factors and facts that people are really standing on in terms of their hesitancy. And this is why you can't be shaming folks, no matter what side of the coin you may be on, whether you're for the vaccine, against it, you're anti-vax, whatever. You have to always, as we say, have space and grace for folks, because honestly, I understand where people are coming from around their hesitancy. It's not as if the medical field and healthcare industry here in America has catered to Black Americans, period. So there's a large number of reasons why people are hesitant. I love what they're talking about there in terms of women and that empathy gap. It's real.
Yeah, I'm going to reach out to public health. Oh, you know, when Dr. Duchin, when he's usually doing his updates, we're on air or we're just got off air. And so we haven't been able to catch one in a minute. Maybe we get Dr. Duchin down here with the Factors. you know, because a lot of their concerns, I mean, their show is really geared towards the streets, and you know, that's they're echoing concerns as well as that where they hear in the ecosystem that they move in. You can catch episode 2. It's up across all of the Converge media platforms right now. Okay, Trey Holiday. So yesterday, Mayor Jenny Durkan made the media rounds across Seattle, and I think we're the only in studio. I think all the other interviews were up there at City Hall. We're the only. This is a nice place to be, by the way.
Right.
And people know you're going to leave here looking crispy and on time. We had the big dog director this yesterday, Salman Abukwasi. I said I had to call in the big hitter for this interview. Make sure it went off great. Talk to the mayor about a few things. I tweeted this clip out earlier, and really wanted to talk to her around this issue of gun violence, of course, but how come a lot of the conversation isn't necessarily centered on the victims? It's a lot of these mamas we bump into who are like, hey, my son was murdered. There's not really a place for me at the table here around the discussion, around, policies, around things like that. It's a lot of mamas in this city, and dads too, but, that feel that they've really been left out of a lot of things that are happening here. And of course, being the victims, I'm sure they have meaningful insight. So I kind of tossed this over to Mayor Durkan. One thing that we never really bring up that I want to take a moment to uplift as well is a lot of these mamas that's out there, a lot of these families, a lot of these people that are impacted. Maybe we could start our conversation with you speaking to them.
Omari, I think that's, you're exactly right. And through this, that's the voice that gets lost often. And I think, this because of where you come from, but mothers in particular, they're the first violence interrupters from a time a kid is small. And we have created this bifurcated system, I think, in society, and even Seattle, when we addressed alternatives, we left the voices of the families and victims out. And I admit to being mayor, not doing enough soon enough, but we've really worked in the last month or two to make sure that we actually get that voice again in the system in a way that addresses it. So trying to help the parents of murdered children so that they can come together and address any range of challenges. When the worst thing in the world happens to your family, you can't be alone, and that's where many of these families are. And whether it's how the police respond or how the hospital responds or whether people even can see their child. And so we're really going to break down those silos and see if we can work city, county, hospitals, and listen to the impacted families to say, give us the guidebook and we'll give you the resources. And so I think that's one thing we have to do, but that's a program for when the violence has already happened. We got to get behind that and upstream to really be interrupting that violence in a meaningful way. And I've said it before, it sounds corny, but it starts with good prenatal birth care so the mothers are healthy and have access to opportunity, so the family's whole and has access. It's good schools, affordable housing, parks. It's what makes a city and a community safe. And it's what we haven't invested in, and we've got to be really honest about that. And if we're going to change that, we have to get at that root cause.
Yeah, I mean, Mayor Durkan there is right about that. And I think that, we talk about it all the time in terms of how we can prevent all of this. What are we doing to really invest in our communities so that people are not feeling like they need to pick up a gun in the first place? I mean, we've talked about this numerous amounts of times, and I think she's absolutely right about the upstream. But also, too, we keep like echoing this and repeating this, centering the voices and the insight from those who have had to, unfortunately, deal with the loss of a loved one. That's super important.
We got to remember, too, that people who are suffering this loss, they ain't necessarily the same people who on Twitter, who on public comment, who on, Facebook. Like, these people are in crisis. And because they're in crisis, a lot of times, man, like I said, their voice isn't heard at all. And it's not pursued. It's not sought out. And, one of the things that came up yesterday on a different call, I sat with Renee Ricchetti, and she had Selena Taylor. That was the kid Ezra, who was killed out there at La Familia. And we had a discussion there. Is that when we talk about what's happening out here and how people are impacted and how families are impacted, there has to be a better way through this, and I mean, for us, clearly we want to be able to use our platform, and, and I even reached out to the family there live, like, yo, what I'm saying, whatever we could be doing. But these voices of people who've been so impacted here in this city, we talk about it, our community, but in the city as a whole, there has to be some kind of action taken.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And, we see different approaches. We see this regional approach to gun violence. We see that, there's a lot of great organizations doing amazing work out there, yet we need to be really intentional. I love what you said there about pursuing those voices of parents who have lost loved ones and young ones, pursuing them so that they can understand there's a direct pathway for their experience and their insight, and the community to wrap them in love. Like, at the end of the day, it's not just about them being at the tables to, talk about solutions, but it's also that care for our community and that love that we talk about all the time. Are we exemplifying that in the best ways? No, we are not. And I know there's great individuals and organizations that are out there that do this work, but it does need to be coming from our elected officials as well. So, Mayor Durkan kind of saying that, I think, is really spot on. And Mayor-elect Harrell has now something to really embrace in terms of that upstream approach.
Right. And according to Mayor Durkan, what she said there in the interview is the last few months here that her administration, and it's her personally, has been intentional in trying to build better relationships and bridges with so many of these victims' families here in the city. You got to think somebody like Donita, who's got something to say, and she's trying to get her podcast off the ground. When it circle back around with her on that, she wants to get a safe house going, all these other things. So when we talk about resources that are out there as well, this isn't one, there is no quick. And one thing that the mayor did bring up is this is a holistic approach, and so there's a lot of different places that are in here that need resources and need attention, and definitely. A lot of these parents have ideas, and when we talk about resources going out to solve this system or this problem, they just really need to be included.
Agreed, 100%. And this is exactly why those that have been at the center of this, creating solutions. Donita is such a great example of that, because she was saying, look, who's reaching out to me? I got answers. I got answers to how other parents and mothers like herself won't have to deal with the loss of their child. And, when we talk about really investing in some of these new age approaches, that's the way to go. I mean, it's not as if the resources aren't out there. They just need to be directed in the right ways.
No, definitely. I will say this is that with this mayor leaving here in just a matter of days, is that whenever there's been an issue around violence in our community, gun violence in our community, and we've reached out there to the mayor's office, we've gotten some response. And the only reason why I bring that up is a lot of people we've never gotten a response from. You know what I'm saying? And this full interview, by the way, it's going to be out tonight, I think at 9 p.m. and we'll put it out there. And in the interview, I mean, you hear me say, man, it's a lot of stuff I disagree, but one, being a media professional, but then two, also not letting the things that you disagree with people about consume you. We're always usually able to have some sort of productive conversation. Speaking of that, then moving on to the next clip here. So yeah, this is where, and the Seattle protest is something that I think I could talk to this mayor about for hours and hours, but we had a short amount of time, and I really wanted to be able to stick to you know, the protest is an issue for the whole city, but it's also a personal issue for me. So I didn't want to bog the whole interview down with my personal issues around the Seattle protests and, you know, police violence and everything else. But I definitely couldn't talk to her for her last time in office and not bring that up. But I wanted to also use the time to be able to focus on, like, man, what she did for the Black community and everything else. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But I asked Mayor Durkan, you know, for people like me and you, Trey Holiday, were impacted when Seattle protests directly. Jake Grabb brought back there. All of these people, not only protesters, but residents, members of the media, and people were just traumatized through lives. It's called vicarious trauma. You know, all these people who watched a lot of this stuff on live stream, and then all the other things that came out of it, including these murders and everything else. But I asked Mayor Durkan what she had to say to people impacted by the Seattle protests. Most people know us and our interviews here, you know, clearly around the Seattle protests, and we don't have enough time to go in there. And actually, man, it's bad for my mental health, to be honest with you, ma'am. But I mean, I have to sit here and I have to say that, like, me, Jake Grabb brought thousands of other people in the city of Seattle. You know, we still impacted, we still affected, you know, at times still bitter, resentful. You know, it's an open wound for a lot of people here. And, you know, there's protesters, there's the media, there was also just residents on Capitol Hill. I mean, it's a lot of people that's impacted. And like I said, I don't want to spend too much time on it and change the mood in here and everything else. But, ma'am, I'm going to give you an opportunity to speak to the people who are impacted. A lot of people impacted by police violence and other things here in the city, but around the Seattle protests. What do you have to say?
So I think, Omar, you're exactly right. So many people were impacted. And it crossed the spectrum. You saw businesses, residents, protesters. You saw the Black community come forward, and not just speaking about the murder of George Floyd, but speaking about generations locked out of opportunity and all the systems built against them. And I think you have to recognize it. You have to recognize these impacts are lasting. You have to really meet people where they are. But the number one thing people want is, what are you doing to change it? Because it's got to be for a reason. And so I really focused in 2020 and this year on what did we hear and how do we make meaningful generational change and build it into the systems, because the wounds are even deeper if nothing changes. And so really looking at how do you make those investments in the Black community, but let the community tell you where those need to be and listen and do it over a period of years that it's actually meaningful. It doesn't just pass with the next election, or it wasn't just a bumper sticker. So the wounds are deep, but I really think the long-term healing only comes if people see the changes they're demanding.
I mean, I hear you. You know, it's just crazy. I did a thing last night. It was with the lawyers and judges. I was on a panelist there, and when you're on these panels and people ask you about it, it isn't until you relive these things and, you know, and everything. It was there, and I mean, it was something. I don't know what all the right answers are. I know, like I said, as somebody who was impacted, this company impacted, you know, we live with a lot of these injuries, physical and mental, that, man, for us, making sure at Converge, making sure to hold everybody accountable. And, you know, you still in office, but when you in the office, you know, I mean, man, how many emails I send? I see, no, you guys said they were doing this. What's up with this or that? And the council, and now, you know, a lot of these resources are in community. And we be hitting up the community too. Like, hey, man, this money's on the street. You know what I'm saying? What are we going to do? I think that's the only thing we can do over here is hold people accountable to what they said they were going to do, because we have a voice, and a lot of our voice represents those tens of thousands of people at times who are on the street just wanting to be heard.
Trey?
You know, oh, you really summed it up really well there. I mean, you're talking about what Converge can do. And I think that, you know, the beautiful thing throughout the protest movement was people really understood the value. The real value of community media. And the unfortunate part is that it took something like the protest to really shine a light on the passion and sincerity and the diligence and dedication that we were putting into Converge way before the protests, just being there for our community. And through it and everything we suffered, everything we saw, we witnessed, we experienced, I'm thankful that people understood the importance of community media. And now we're able to say Black media matters. And Converge Media was there on the ground, live streaming it so that everybody could be a part of what was going on the ground. The dedication to this does not start or end with the protest, because the dedication has been to our community. And the fact that you had Mayor Durkan here and really addressed it like that, that speaks volumes to the consistent dedication to the community, man.
You know, they had asked me on that panel, I'll look it up before we get out of here. You know, that's another thing, another outcome. People don't understand. They're like, what a struggle this show is. I used to have a photographic memory before the Seattle protest. And even sometimes here, I can't remember the next word. You know, we took so much impact. Damn police throwing grenades at our head. It's all on tape. All kinds of stuff. Everything else we saw out there. And I went from having a photographic memory a year ago, I gotta look at a page, I know every word, to sometimes I do this show, it's a struggle to even know what's next. You know, I didn't need no sheet before. Just look at this, I know the whole show. And it's a struggle. And that's a direct impact of what's come out of the Seattle protest. And people don't understand, it'd be funny. People don't understand, like, man, down deep, how angry I am, how upset I am, how I just want to yell. But I know it's a higher purpose we serve here. And I know that keeping these communications open and being professional and not letting my biases and what impacts me impact everything else. But it's a challenge, man. And you know, you got to tell people that to their face. It's a chief executive officer of our city. Ain't no time machine. Can't go back in time. But you know what? At the same time, I'm not the only one. I'm just the one with the microphone. There's so many people in this city impacted in so many different ways. And ain't nobody really addressed it in the best way. Like, yeah, there's money way, want to do investment, want to do this and that. But it's a lot of people, man. You know, my mobility so jammed up. You know what I'm saying? I gotta get some kind of surgery here on my leg. Jake Grabrot, he gotta get a surgery too. A few of them. That's why I say the physical scars and the mental scars are what we went through. Yes, us, but this city went through. It ain't never really just fully been addressed, man. And this is why I had to keep that conversation on the surface. Because even now we get into it, man, you know, it's a spiral here. You know, every time we bring this up, it'd be 2-3 days of cloudiness in here in the studio. You know, but I mean, it need to be talked about. But I just know this. I ain't never, and when you watch the full interview, you know, we talked about people not forgetting. And I'm like, man, I ain't never gonna let people forget. Not because of Omari, but because man, I ain't never gonna let nobody revise the history of all of these people who saw this crime against humanity and came to the streets. And yeah, they uplifted George Floyd, but they also uplifted Charlena Lyles and said her name. You know, I mean, it's a lot. And
we have talked about this so many times, but it's because it's so necessary, and clearly it has its own impact in our lives personally. It's not an easy thing to breach over and over again, but the importance of the issue is that great that we have to dive into the recesses of our own memories, of our own lived experiences, to bring it to the surface all the time. And the truth of the matter is that what you're talking about is so real. The collective healing has never taken place. And the intentionality of addressing the harm and what needs to be healed from so many thousands of people who came out is something that all we can do is again, keep it alive to a certain degree, because we understand the impact on the city. So many people coming out of their homes, some of them for the very first time ever, to showcase their sense of solidarity with those who have been slain by police brutality, to then experience that police brutality themselves in such a real way. You know, it's always tough for us over here, because this is not on us. This is in us, man.
Man, we get it coming and going. And, you know, we saw during this election cycle, all these revisionist history writers out here, you know, they called people exercising their First Amendment rights rioters. You know, they called people who took to the streets. And we saw a riot in D.C.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I'm saying? And I mean, it's important that, like, man, we don't let people revise the history of what happened here in Seattle. That we don't let people just rewrite because it works out best for them. And man, I'll never, and you know, I'll call it like I see it. These guys was out here doing dumb shit, I'll call it out. And the police out here, I call it like I see it. But ultimately, at the end of the day, man, so many people came out because they wanted to see a better day for Black people in this city. And people came out there every day for a week and got their ass whooped by the SPD and kept coming back because they wanted to see a better day for Black people in this city. And I'm not going to let the revisionist historians come out and put some other story that's out there. I was there. I got the footage. I got the interviews and everything else. And, you know, I would say that people acknowledging, and this is 2 interviews in a row where we hear people saying that, okay, this is what I've learned. Deborah Juarez, in the interview with her, she was like, man, this is what I learned. This is what I perceived going into the protest. This is what I learned. The mayor is now saying, man, this is what I've learned. This is what we're trying to do. You know, unfortunately, there ain't no time machine. And the best that we could do here is hold people accountable. Hold these things accountable. We're going to take a quick break right now. When we come back, we'll continue the discussion.
Hey guys, Besa Gordon here, and before heading to Belize, Trey Holiday and I had to make sure we linked up with our good friends over at Market Street Shoes to, of course, grab a few things for the trip. From bags to socks, shoes, sunglasses, earrings, and more. Before going on any trip, make sure you stop at Market Street Shoes. Trust me, you'll find just what you need to make your trip not only enjoyable, but fashionable.
Pacific Northwest Ballet is thrilled to be back on stage with your favorite holiday tradition, the Nutcracker. Brighten your holidays with this timeless tale, performed by PNB's incredible company of dancers to the live magic of the PNB Orchestra, playing Tchaikovsky's classic score. Treat your loved ones to the Nutcracker at Seattle Center's McCaw Hall. Tickets and health and safety information at pnb.org.
On October 23rd, we unveiled the new Converge Media Studios to Stephanie Johnson Tolliver of the Black Heritage Society of Washington State, who, along with Damon Brown of Creative Lou, designed our interview wall with epic images of Seattle's Black community of yesteryear from the late Al Smith's photography collection at Mohi. We often speak about our past, our community, our culture, our traditions. Though times have changed for us here in the Emerald City, Converge Media is firmly rooted in our history and grounded in our legacy while focused on the future. We want to say thank you to all of you who support Converge Media. Just know that you are the difference. You made this studio possible, and because of you, we continue to grow and thrive in our purpose. So be on the lookout for new, impactful, and educational programming from Converge Media. And remember, Black media matters.
Welcome back to the Morning Update Show. You know, sometimes we got a whole run of show here, and sometimes we just got to go with the conversation.
It's for me, it always strikes me because I think about the resilience of Black people. This country has never, ever truly appreciated the energy, the life, the vibrancy, the ingenuity, the innovation, the inventions, the contributions of Black people. And every time we talk about the Seattle protests of 2020, it connects me to such a larger oppressive struggle of Black people. And it took massive amounts of Black people dying at the hands of police to even get to George Floyd, to even get to him. We're talking about thousands of Black people. No charges ever held up in court for these officers. We never got to really feel like there was a balance of justice with regard to so many people losing their lives because of the fear of the Black man, because of this moniker of angry Black women, this idea that it's them versus us. I mean, it has such a messed up history. When I think about the protests of 2020 and thousands of people throughout Washington coming to Seattle, beyond Washington, coming to Seattle to stand in solidarity together, it makes me think of all of the Black people who lost their lives to even get to that point where people were awakened that much to get out of their homes, to get uncomfortable, to then experience that same police brutality that brought them out.
No, I mean, 100%. I think that it's interesting. If you go back through the footage, that footage be too much for me to watch. But you go back through that footage and you see right there at that Western Barricade, and I'd be asking people, what do you do? You know what I'm saying? Oh, man, I work at Microsoft, work at Google, work at Facebook. I'm a barista. I'm a banker. I'm an artist, hella artist, Capitol Hill. You know what I'm saying? I'm a DJ. It was a spectrum across a spectrum of people here in Seattle. And that's why I said that, like, there's this revisionist history that's out there, is wild. And, like, not for me. I'm gonna figure out a way. We need to give away the profits or something, because I don't want to make money off the protests. But I think that, like, doing a book or a documentary or something, nobody has more comprehensive footage
and out there from the, and there's hours of stuff we never released because it wasn't on the live stream, than us, because you have to be able to push back against a lot of the lies and misinformation that's out there. And, what I'm saying, let the facts fall where they are. But, I take a firm stand against people wanting to use the protests, what I'm saying, for their narrative. And for all the people, like I said, that were impacted, that are still impacted, I ain't gonna forget about you. We ain't gonna forget about you. And yeah, man, it's just a lot. This is what I said. This is why I ain't really go deep into all of this with Mayor Durkan yesterday. It would probably just wouldn't have been a good result. And some of the other things that we still want to talk about today, what I'm saying, I wouldn't have got to. But like I said, there's no way that just to not have that conversation. And like I said, people should know that it's like, imagine the balance, in a sense, that it's like, yeah, I still hold in a lot of stuff and I hold on to it. But then at the same time, I know it's important that people, like when there's the shooting up there for CD Panthers at your son's practice, I know it's also important that our community hears from the police. So he called Chief Diaz. Chief, parents ain't bringing their kids to practice. What you gonna do? So it's this relationship of like, man, these same people, this the same organization, but at the same time, it's like, man, what's the higher good? What's the higher whatever? What's put the professional hat on? Leave your personal feelings at home. And that's what we've been doing here. And, to the best of our ability, sometimes it spills out like today. But I don't know, Trey.
I mean, I'm so connected to our community, and we get to do this show every day with this amazing mural of Black brilliance and how Black brilliance thrived throughout the Central District and beyond. And I look at the smiling faces of these folks behind us, and I think about the oppression they were facing then. And we're sitting here talking about the same oppression right now. We're talking about the same things that brought everybody out. And how long do we have to have this at the table before we eradicate this altogether? How long are we going to allow the hatred to persist, to thrive in the ways that it has? How long do we have to keep on demanding justice, getting ourselves out there in the streets, being willing to be beaten by police, tear gas, rubber bullets, flash bangs? How long do we have to do this before we as a society understand that we're all here to be a part of something that could be beautiful? We don't have to be suffering with this kind of oppression. Man, how long?
I'm gonna tell you that I'll say one thing about the city of Seattle. And for some reason, I guess it's the end of the year, I just thought about it. So I've been doing so many different interviews with people. And I was talking to a newspaper on the East Coast, and I was like, yo, the difference with Seattle is that people came and they stayed on the streets here because there's the possibility to make a change. So many cities across America, people came out, they're angry about George Floyd. 2-3 days, they went home. Seattle, people stayed in the streets because they know it's a possibility. It's a possibility to be able to make an impact, to be able to make a change. And I'll just say this, we'll move on. This, like, the irony is that now suffering memory loss, the things that I want to forget, I can't. And the things that I want to remember, I can't. Let's take a quick break. When we come right back, I asked Mayor Durkan what she's done for the Black community.
Hey guys, Besa Gordon here, and before heading to Belize, Trey Holiday and I had to make sure we linked up with our good friends over at Market Street Shoes to, of course, grab a few things for the trip. From bags to socks, shoes, sunglasses, earrings, and more. Before going on any trip, make sure you stop at Market Street Shoes. Trust me, you'll find just what you need to make your trip not only enjoyable, but fashionable.
All right, welcome back to the Morning Update Show. So, in talking about this interview yesterday with Mayor Durkan, I asked Mayor Durkan, like, we want to know what you've done or we're not able to do for the Black community, so we know how to benchmark this next mayor. If we don't know what you've accomplished, a lot of stuff, city government happens. Some things are big, high profile, like this 100 million and everything else, press releases, and maybe some things or small things people don't know. But it's important going into a new administration that we know maybe where the mayor succeeded at, where she failed at, so we can hold the next mayor accountable to be able to push these things forward.
So what are some of the things that you've done for our community that maybe people know about or maybe people don't know about, so we can make sure this next administration furthers on top of those efforts?
That's a great question. And I think that, we've talked about before how important education is if you're really going to get at the root causes of opportunity. So I'd start with that. Our free pre-K has been amazing, but we've had to really work to continue the size of that program through the pandemic. And then 2 years free college for every Seattle Public School student. Building on that, I was able to announce 2 days ago that Amazon now has given a contribution. We went to the state, got state law changed, so our community colleges can give a 4-year degree in computer sciences. You can't hire enough people with that degree right now in Seattle. Starting wages are like $130,000 a year. So you can get these students 2 years free college. We now do bridge financing so they get the 4-year degree, if that's what they want to do. And the next mayor, though, is really going to have to push and collaborate to not just keep Seattle Promise as the 2 years, but how do you give people the support for childcare or transportation? How do you open up the doors so they get real jobs and internships? So that's one thing that I was able to do, and we set a lot of that up pre-pandemic. But we've got to, today, when I came in, I'm so proud of Seattle for this. There's about 100 students in the Seattle Promise program, 1,000 enrolled this fall. We've had like 2,300 since I've been mayor, and 60+% are students of color, predominantly African American, and 30% first in their family to go to college. That's ground shifting, but it won't just perpetuate itself. You've got to keep and build those relationships. You've got to make sure that the businesses hire and give those people the opportunity. You've got to work with the colleges to open up. So number one, we've made a lot of advances there. Housing. I'm really, again, in 4 years, $2.5 billion of affordable housing, over 7,000 new units. And then I issued an executive order that I hope he continues, that gives people from the community first shot at the housing, to be an anti-gentrification and displacement. So things like that, I think that Bruce has a lot of opportunity, but he's also got a lot of challenges, and people got to support him.
What are the challenges?
So you look right now, and first, the pandemic's not done. So he's got to be able to continue. How do we get everyone boosted? How do we work with public health? Our economy has changed forever. Getting our downtown restarted is hard because people don't work in the office anymore. And if people aren't in the office, then your small businesses don't thrive. You've got homelessness and a new regional authority. And then you've got the bigger kind of issue of how do we as a city get past divisions, and how does he able to work with the city council and get their support, and how does he make sure that we start focusing in Seattle on our common ground and move forward on our common ground?
Wow. I mean, she listed out a lot of different things there that I think many Black families are definitely benefiting from. And, I love being able to hear about wins all around, because honestly, we talk so much about the losses. We talk so much about what the impediments of our community are. So I love hearing this expansion of the Seattle Promise, this investment by Amazon, which is so necessary in terms of really creating a real pipeline for people from the city to be participating in those jobs. It only actually benefits these companies to be turning out graduates that then can go into their companies and make their companies better. And we've understood through statistics now that when you have diverse workforces, diverse leadership, executive leadership, when you diversify your employee base, you win overall. There's really no data that showcases that there's a loss. So the beauty of, progressive thinking and forward thinking is alive and well in a lot of what she listed there. And I think she is right in terms of a lot of the challenges that Mayor-elect Bruce Harrell is going to have to deal with, because the pandemic isn't over. And absolutely, when we talk about the downtown core, we see it every single day right here in Pioneer Square. We see that there's a loss of small businesses because those little deli shops and some other little shops are just not being populated like they used to. We now understand that there is a real investment by the Downtown Seattle Association to bring diversity into these vacancies. I mean, there's a lot of them. So there's a lot of things to overcome, but I love hearing those wins.
Yeah, I mean, one thing for sure is that me, to the very best of my ability, I'm always going to try to be as fair as I can. And I think that where we find problems in dealing with government and city government is that we have an issue with someone where we vehemently disagree, and that taints, everything else in it. And I'll say this, and when people watch the interview, we put it out at 9:00 tonight. I told Mayor Durkan, I was like, yo, there's some things we probably never going to see eye to eye on, but in being fair, right? And this is the thing, is where, we have to have a place where fairness is still out there, especially in media. If you've accomplished things, then we need to uplift those things. You know what I'm saying? Because we definitely call it out when on the flip side of things, but in dealing with people, and especially our elected officials and everything else. And now we got a new mayor coming in. And we have to be able to, call bullshit when it's some bullshit, and we need to be able to say, hey, acknowledge good things when there are good things out there. And I know that big shout out to Director Chappelle over there at DEAL, Department of Early Education Learning, and being a key driver over there in what they're doing in Seattle Promise and childcare and everything else, which is really impactful to families in our community.
It really is. And, you're right. I mean, we have a long way to go, and there's, accountability that needs to be held all around. When we talk about Mayor-elect Bruce Harrell coming in, I know that there's some things that he said on his campaign trail around his contributions that he's going to be doing specifically for Black community, and really elevating certain things and working to eliminate these wealth divides that we see racially. Also, too, I mean, there's a lot of folks that say, man, Mayor Durkan first said 100 million of Black people. I say we understand all of that, but we have to now figure out what we're going to do with the new mayor, how we're going to be holding all of our elected officials accountable to the things that they say throughout the campaign trail. We have some new council members that are coming in to Seattle Council. We have Dow, who was out there, our executive at the King County level, spoke a lot on his campaign trail about some of the contributions he's going to be making, particularly in the creative economy. And we've seen some of those investments play out with the Soundstage Studios down at Harbor Island. So I see it as a full ranging thing. And I agree with you. Oh, when it's BS, we call it out. We know that there was a lot we felt Mayor Durkan could have done, but I will say I'm grateful to really be hearing those wins. And I'll be honest with you, just sometimes I'm like, man, we focus on the losses a lot. And I love being able to know that our kids from right here in Seattle have something that's really wrapping them around and allowing for those kinds of numbers, record numbers, 30% of those students to be the first generation college educated. That's something that, really stand on, man.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, we have to be able to benchmark things from this administration to be able to gauge success on the next administration. I mean, one number we have right there is 1,000 kids in Seattle Promise. You know what I'm saying? How do we get it to 2,000? How do we keep impacting this? How do we build a bigger pipeline? How do we shrink that wealth gap in our community? Well, it's a lot of stuff we ain't get to today. But sometimes, Trey Holiday, it's just good to talk from the heart. You know what I'm saying? And say what's on our heart. We get ready to get out of here. You got any last words?
Man, I want to say I love you. And everything that you have given. Sorry, because when you talk about it from a personal perspective of what you've lost, that really hits home for me because I watch you work hard every single day. So I just want to give my love to you right now because I know how impacted you were. And I get to sit here with you Monday through Thursday, and you put your heart into this. And you always have. For those of you that don't get to see all the hard work this man puts in, when he talks about what he has personally lost, just understand that has a real impact on him. I just give you love.
Appreciate you, Trey. I don't know if there's anything to add to that, but I'll say this. Thank you to everybody out there for your continued support. We stay on air because of you. On that note, go forward in your purpose. Go forward in your humanity. And tomorrow, we're going to turn some frowns into a smile because it's Feel Good Friday with Trey Holiday. Peace.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun.